Hey, everybody, welcome to the Unconventional Therapist. My name is Dave. I'm joined here with my co host, Greg. And this episode is the first episode for, I guess we'll call this season three.
We're gonna call it
We
season three. We're gonna
we
okay,
had a
fair
season
enough.
two. We did move it to season two at one point. I don't know that we actually had a space between season one and season two. There was just so many episodes that at some point I started to catalog them as season two at one point. And that was probably last year at some point. I don't even know
Okay,
when.
yeah.
But
So
we actually
every
had a gap
year,
this time.
yeah, every year we did have a gap, yeah, and maybe I should get into that a little bit. I had a weird experience where out of nowhere I started having tinnitus. Dave, have you ever experienced this?
I haven't experienced it. I didn't realize you've had it in the past too, no? Well, no,
I've
you
had it
had
in the
actively
past,
been
but
talking about it, I think, at one point.
so it had been building, but it had gotten to the point where at night I could not sleep because it had gotten so loud. And I kind of really got in my head about it, and it was almost one of those things where, it's funny as a therapist, I compared it a lot to intrusive thoughts, or I guess mainly that, like things that you are going on in your mind, almost like the Stephen Hayes things, where like you don't want this happening, but at some point you have to accept that it's happening and move on with your life. And I was kind of struck with this thing where it's like, all right, well, easier said than done, but maybe this is an opportunity for me to deal with this, push through, so I can kind of help other people who are dealing with similar things. And I think the hardest part of it all was the insomnia, because you really do lose a lot of will when you're not sleeping.
Yes.
It's like a really hard thing where when you're dealing when you're like it's very frustrating when it gets to be one or it gets to be two and you're trying all these different things. I was listening to books. I was trying to drown out the noise essentially. With like leaving the TV on or whatever. I was trying all these different things, but what it ended up working out the best is just me saying I have to at some point learn that this is what's going on in my life. This is what I'm hearing, and to try to shift focus from that onto other things, and to just sort of accept that that's going to be there as like this is my new quiet.
Yeah.
Still
So
working on it.
so where are you at now with it?
um it's funny, the audiologist I talked to said days like this, like in this specific thing where you talk about it, will be a bad day for it,
Because you're
because
thinking
again,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, you're bringing that attention to it and you're kind of like noticing it. And it is very much like I've gotten to a point where it's like hours or even, yeah, like hours will go by and I won't even notice that it was there, right? Because I've accepted that it's there and I've moved on to other things. But this is similar for people with any kind of annoying thing that they kind of can't control, where you know they wish that it could go away, and you wanting it to go away so bad. And of course, I always kind of related back to mental health. I want this depression to go away. I want this anxiety to go away. It's like ruining everything. And I felt that way, and I got caught up in that. But I had to at some point say like this is something that's going on. This is something that's happening to me that I don't like, that can't really control. I can keep trying to fix it, and I can keep trying to find ways to like, kind of overcome it, or I can just kind of focus on everything else and let that be, and almost not succumb to it, but accept it in a different kind of way where it's like this is how it is. What can I still do even though this is going on? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I feel
Just kind of exposing myself to it was the hardest thing, where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sleep in silence tonight and see what happens.
I feel really
And
bad
it was
for
hard,
your
but that's what I'm doing now.
I feel bad for your patients. Now that you've worked through this, you're gonna be like, oh, that's what you got
Yeah.
going on. Oh, well, let me tell you about what I dealt with and what I got
Yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah. And it has come up where, and I haven't I've used it in a way. It's sort of like I have a friend that has tinnitus, you know what I mean? Or I have like someone in my family. I haven't really kind of like put it on myself yet because I didn't really feel like it's appropriate. But you know that thing we've talked about before where like if you're in a swimming pool and you hold that ball down underwater, and that's like your emotions or that's like your thoughts. And yeah, you've kind of pushed it away, and it's kind of no one can see it, and you're hiding it, but it's taking a lot of work to keep it down there.
Hmm.
I was there for a while. I was in that, I wasn't practicing what I preached. It kind of affected my life in a lot of ways. It took me away from the podcast. It affected me at work. I didn't miss any work, which is kind of crazy. Um, but I probably should have,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I held that ball down underwater and I held it there for a good month. And then I did the thing that I've always told people to do and just like let it go and let it bump into you once in a while, but still play Marco Polo and ring toss or whatever the hell else you do in the pool, right?
Sure.
And that's something that's really helped me. And I hope that, you know, and I'm making light of the insomnia because I think that we have listeners that have struggled with insomnia, of course. Dave, I don't know what your experience is with it, but this was my first kind of go at it. I've always been the kind of guy lay down in bed and the next thing you know, 20, 30 minutes later. But I have a whole new sort of respect or understanding, empathy for people who can't sleep at night. It's
Hmm.
a it's a bastard, dude. It
Yeah.
really
I
is.
can imagine. I don't struggle with that at all now whatsoever. Maybe younger years, I dealt with it
Mm.
very briefly from time to time. Usually, I think it was anxiety induced. But I mean, that's kind of like my nightmare is not being able to sleep because I'm someone who like if I don't get the hours of sleep that I require, I instantly get sick. I'm useless. My immune system just like plummets. It always happens. If I don't get good sleep, I get a cold and like, I'm drowsy and just can't think straight and all that stuff. So I really do have empathy for that. That's not a
And
not a
it's funny, if I'm being completely honest, it's I understood why people become, addicts, alcoholics. Like I was like, what kind of, I didn't go down the road, but I was like, maybe if I drank enough, I'd probably fall right to sleep, or I wouldn't be able to hear it, or but so I kind of had like the adverse reaction to that. So I'm like, I'm not gonna drink at all, like through
yeah,
this whole thing. I'm not gonna do anything like that. I'm not gonna take sleeping pills. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna kind of. I tried melatonin a couple times, made me pee all night. Apparently, that's a thing that happens to
really.
40-year-old men.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
honestly, like everyone has the same kind of reaction that Dave's just kind of made a face at me.
because I mean I've
But
taken melatonin and never had that happen.
documented side effect. Yeah, that like, of course I would. So what's funny about the melatonin thing? It worked. I fell asleep, but then like I had to wake up because of going like
Sure.
I had to pee. Just a pain, a
Yeah, yeah.
pain. But we are back. We just had our annual Christmas party, and Dave and I kind of regrouped and we're like, hey, like let's do a nice easy episode to kind of like dip a
Yeah.
toe, and then we're just really gonna go for it starting next
Yeah,
week.
and I think also Greg, with the amount of time that we had off, it was I think it was October, early October was our last episode. So it's been a bit. And I think for a lot of it I didn't really know what you were experiencing. So, and I gave you a hard time when I saw you saying like you got to talk, you got to tell me what's going on, because that was kind of my experience throughout that entire time off. Like I didn't know what you were dealing with.
Yeah.
You at one point were like, I got to tell you what's going on, but like kind of, you know, even after I understood, I didn't know what we were going to do going forward. So a lot of people have reached out in the meantime, which we super appreciate. And that's kind of why I just didn't really know what exactly was going to come out of all this. That's why when we talked recently, and I've sent out a few feelers saying like, "Hey, what do you want to do here?" It was genuine. Like I didn't know if we were going to continue, if what was going on was like getting in the way. And also, you've had a ton of career changes recently. Um, and I was kind of interested to know, but um in a perfect world, if we were to take a break again, we will definitely let people know.
Hmm.
um so if you're a listener, you're kind of curious, yeah, it definitely, this our break was definitely not planned, but I think also at the same time it was maybe a little like deserved or needed, to give us some time to regroup, recalibrate. I'm excited for a new season because obviously that means
Yeah.
we can make some changes. Because I think without ever taking a break, you never really get that moment to say like, "Hey, what could be different?"
What could we work on?
Right?
Maybe, we kind of fell into like a sort of like turned into like a machine.
Yeah,
And maybe we lost some of the what we had going on earlier, some of and plus we've covered close to 200 topics, so it's been
yeah. I mean, I think we easily could. have done everything exactly the same and gone week after week after week. And, that would be totally fine. But I think it is important sometimes to take a step back and be like, well, what could be done differently to actually like take this another step, right? And then
Yeah.
I think one of our biggest struggles, and this is going to be something we really, have to address this season, is we want to continue to build our Patreon community, make that feel worthwhile to people. So look for that to be a big area of growth this year. I think that's going to be something really big.
So without further ado, Dave,
Here we go.
should we address this topic?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, Dave, are you a Game of Thrones person?
I have seen one episode.
Well, probably enough to know with just that one episode that the scariest, almost scariest thing that could happen is winter is coming, right? That's
Yeah.
like the whole thing. And many of us feel that way. Like it's like a reclusive time of year. We want to get cozy. We want to crawl up with a book, maybe. We want to partner up. What do they call that? Cuffing season. That's like a thing that people
Oh,
do.
yeah.
You know
I thought
that?
I thought it had a different meaning, not one
Well,
that
it's a
we would want to say
biological
on
thing
air.
where you wanna find a partner to cozy up with for. What did
Oh,
you think that meant?
it's not
Never
suitable
mind.
for. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, never mind on that one. So it's just this time of year where there's some and I get the sense that like with people there's some guilt involved with this idea that you get more withdrawn, you get more, I don't know, you tend to isolate a little bit more. And, this is something that winter does to people. And 40% of Americans, it does this to people. And we'll talk about why America is the caveat a little later on. But, you know,
Yeah.
the it always brings this thing to mind for me that the biggest contributors to mental illness are obviously our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts. But the problem I've been spending a lot of time with lately is that these things are the predominant driver of our behaviors, all of them. And they're so like unpredictable and out of our control for the most part, these things, right? So for example, we wake up in the morning, we feel sad, and maybe it got dark at 4 o'clock. We feel sad, and we start to think of reasons like, well, why am I sad? What's going on that makes me sad? And instead of just sort of taking it as a biological impulse that really has nothing to do with our lives, maybe, right?
Mm.
And to me, this winter sadness essay, it's funny that like it's seasonal affective disorder and
Yeah,
it's
it's
also
so sad.
sad.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of,
I know.
I mean, is it funny? Maybe, right? But it's evolutionary, David. Like David, I never do that.
What?
It's I know. I'm sorry. First day back. We've really tightened things up. It's very
Yeah, it
formal now.
feels really
David and
great.
Gregory. But Dave, they say that it's hard to pin down the sort of reason why this happens to us, but it does make sense that historically speaking, people had to go get warm,
And
isolate,
yeah,
hibernate in the winter.
nothing about it doesn't make sense to me.
I,
You know what I mean? Like everything changes. From the sunlight to your level of activity to, just the way you live your life, everything changes. You have totally different experiences. And for some people, uh, I think some people take that a lot harder than others. Like some people are totally fine with that change and maybe they have things that they look forward to. And other people are like, oh my God, this is the worst part of the year for me because everything I enjoy is gone.
but do you think that for some people, maybe these 40% of people, there's like this lingering sort of biological, evolutionary, I don't know, this protective factor that makes them feel sad in a sense so that they withdraw away from like, outdoor activities because that's what would have kept them alive,
I
hundreds
mean,
of thousands of years ago. This stuff hangs out.
maybe that is like a hereditary um thing that is or what would you say, like how not maybe not hereditary but some kind of like survival
Yeah,
thing. Sure,
mechanism.
maybe because what that would explain why some people are more prone to it than others, for sure, right?
And they say that not only some people are more prone to it, but regions. You know what I mean? So
Right.
people who are further from the equator obviously are more prone to it, maybe because they evolved to separate themselves from the outside. And now instead of like a lot of mental illness is this mismatch between evolutionary behavior and, societal norms. So it's like
Sure.
you're supposed to go to work, you're supposed to get out in the world, you're supposed to socialize, supposed to in our society. But we have this biological impulse that makes us, that's like telling us to withdraw. So we feel off. And we interpret that as sadness, I guess,
Yeah.
or depression.
I mean, the other thing is maybe it's just some people, that decrease of vitamin D, and some people have lower levels of vitamin D. I mean, that piece of it seems to make sense to me as well, which is also why, you know what the sad lamp is?
I do, yes.
All right. So, we use that at my work pretty frequently with like individuals who suffer from seasonal affect, and they go under the lamp for a little bit and they get some of those rays, and suddenly they come out and they got a big smile on their face, and that seems to kind of to me maybe explain it a little easier, is like just that's what's missing.
That's what's missing, or is it like I don't know, a placebo in a way. And maybe obviously for everybody it's going to be different. There's never any sort of, but it's like, hey, this hanging out under this lamp or, getting this artificial sunlight is going to help. And now you have that thought in your mind that this intervention is going to help. So, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I guess when we're talking about mental health, that works. That is it working.
You know, here's something that challenges your placebo theory, though. Working with the individuals I work with, the population I work with, some individuals go under that lamp not fully understanding why they're going under that lamp. You know what I mean? Like some
Yeah, I
individuals
do.
go under that lamp because they're told to go under the lamp because the doctor
Yeah.
ordered it, and their understanding of why they're going under the lamp might not be fully understood, right?
And their mood improves.
And their mood improves still.
Yeah.
So
So they
that
don't
would
have the
be
insight to sort of, yeah.
correct.
But you know what's interesting about that? Getting some sun on your face,
Yeah,
real or not, good
yeah,
for you.
yeah. Get no matter what, and you go to the doctor, you get blood work done, right? And the labs will usually tell you, vitamin D levels and all that stuff. For me, I'm always low on that,
Mm.
which also has always made sense to me. And I always go to the doctor in the winter because that's like whatever, just that's when my annual physical ends up being, and it's always low. So he always tells me you got to take a supplement. And I also feel like I either have seasonal affect or maybe, can have been prone to depressive disorders in general. So for me, that's kind of always been what I've associated it with,
Oh yeah,
biological.
that's actually kind of interesting. And then if you have an existing depressive disorder, it's probably like not gonna help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, Dave, do you want to get us into some of the
Yeah.
signs and symptoms of sad?
Sure. Here we go. So persistent, sad, anxious, or empty mood most of the
Yep.
day, nearly every day for at least 2 weeks. This is straight out of the DSM, I'm assuming. Feelings of hopelessness or pessimism, feelings of irritability, frustration, or restlessness, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, or hopelessness, loss of interest or pleasure in hobbies and activities, decreased energy, fatigue, or feeling slowed down, difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions, changing in sleep or appetite or unplanned weight changes, physical aches or pains, headaches, cramps, or digestive problems that do not have a clear physical cause and do not go away with treatment, and thoughts of death or suicide attempts. And these would be happening during one of the seasonal changes.
Yeah. Now, what if you were like, hey, during the winter months, like if this was like a PSA and your doctor said, you might w- your body might be trying to tell you that you need to take it easy. You need to stop engaging in so much of your hobbies and your activities. And you might feel a little bit more tired and you might, feel feelings that you may interpret as like irritability or frustration or restlessness. And that is just your body's way of or it used to be your body's way of pulling you away from the the weather essentially and pulling you out of routines and the pressure to farm or do this or do that
Mhm.
so that you remain safe and can live through the winter. So it's like your body in the same way that anxiety is like like our brain kind of trying to protect us all the time, and it's a sometimes irrational. It's like a little kid trying to protect us all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe like explaining it to people in that way where like you may feel like this. So when you do get that feeling, you're not like, "Oh my God, I'm depressed." You're like, "Oh my God, my brain wants me to retreat." But we're not living in a cave anymore. So I have to kind of show my brain, just like I would expose myself to an anxiety or a fear or whatever, a panic. I can do these things while feeling this way because I need to outsmart my brain right now and let it know that, hey, look, this isn't primitive era. This is like
Yeah.
modern times.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I mean, a lot of this, I mean, everything I just described sounds like the same description of what we would tell you if we were describing major depressive disorder. In fact, you could
Mhm.
actually go back and listen to our depression episode, and I'm pretty sure we said every one of those symptoms in there. The only difference for this is as the season changes, people tend to feel better, right? So when spring comes
Mhm.
along, suddenly there's this boost of energy, or just in general feeling better, whatever that improved. So that's what makes this different is it's kind of isolated typically to the seasonal change. Now, the thing that's interesting about that is we always associate it with fall and winter, but there is spring and summer sad. And there might be some differences. So for fall and winter, symptoms specific to that onset may be oversleeping, appetite changes, maybe craving high foods and foods high in carbohydrates, weight gain, tiredness, or low energy. That's definitely all me within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, but can we pause that for just a
Yeah,
second before we talk about like, hey, you know, don't worry, if you don't get sad in the winter, you can get sad in the summer too. But like those things that you just described, it sounds like what it's like we would see in a bear and say
sure.
that's what bears do to stay alive.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's like it's hibernating 100%. Attached with low mood and all the other
Uh-huh.
symptoms that we mentioned before. I mean, I think honestly, I mean, I could be wrong and people will probably, say I'm wrong. Those little things I just said, like the oversleeping, appetite change, weight gain, all that, I think those are
Yeah.
like universal things in that we
Winter.
experience in the winter if you live in like cold weather areas, right? So if I
Winter
live
behavior.
in, yeah, if I live in like Texas, I might not experience all those things to the same level that we're experiencing them right now in Rhode Island, where it has been pretty frigid, as of late.
It's funny that you say that because one of my good friends, Pete, who's a listener of the podcast, not a proud sponsor, but an avid listener, he used to call me something different in the wintertime because I would noticeably put on a couple extra, and he would say, "Oh, like if I don't see
Yeah.
him for like a couple months, and then I see him in January, he'd say, "Oh, winter Greg,"
Yeah.
and that's what he was.
It's
That's
funny.
what he called me, and it's like, "Oh, okay, so that's your way of telling me like I'm puffy,
Yeah.
you know?"
Yeah. I
Yeah.
literally this morning made a joke because I got an oversized sweater recently because I had a normal actually at your house, I wore
Yeah.
like a normal size sweater and I felt tight. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. No, it looked
and
good.
today I
The picture
said,
you can see on Instagram.
today I said I'm bulking up for the winter. Just because like I noticed I have gained a few pounds. I feel a little bit bloated. So um
Surviving.
but I like I said, I think this is universal. I know this experience. I'm sure well, your hours are crazy right now, but I leave work around 5. It's dark out. I cannot wait to get home and just be indoors. I don't want to go anywhere when I get out of work. And that's just the way the winter is in
Yeah,
North,
and I think
right?
like some people, I think maybe the difference is some people are really able to embrace that and kind of enjoy those symptoms,
Yes.
if you want to call them symptoms,
Right.
where they're like, "Ooh, like this is I just want to get my snuggie on
Yeah.
and I want to lay down and I want to watch Stranger Things straight through." Or like, you know what I mean? Like binge something or eat and just hang. And like it sounds like maladaptive, but like maybe that's just like seasonal behavior and maybe that's okay.
So the difference between regular seasonal behavior is one is some people might embrace.
Hmm.
The other is people that get lost in it. So the only difference between those things, they're having the same experience, is the level of suffering that goes along, right?
Yep.
And that level of suffering is because they're not embracing it, they're rejecting it. So when you're working with someone with seasonal, one of the big things you can do is, first, I always prepare patients for it. So I'll start talking to them about it early fall. Like, hey, what's coming up, happens, every time this year, this time of the year comes around, how are we preparing ourselves, right? Um, Sometimes we'll make goals, but also just like explaining to them, like, hey, this is how your body is, this is just a thing with your body, and this is how it's going to affect you, and so like, what are you going to do to work your way through it? Once you know it, once you understand it and you accept it and you start to work with it, I feel like it's so much easier to navigate than if you're lost, right? And you don't understand what's happening, or you're rejecting it, you're like, oh, I wish this wasn't going on, or if you give into it too much. Don't you think that makes it like the
No, yeah,
give
I
it?
was going to agree with you 100% because typically when you were first mentioned that, I was like, oh, well, I don't want to front load someone with like to almost like make it so maybe they will. But then at the same time, it's like that way when you do it like that, it's nice because then when those symptoms start to come, they say, "Oh, I noticed these I noticed this."
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm enveloped in this. It's like I'm noticing this, which is what we always way more preferred. You know what I mean? Like if it's like someone's like I'm having it like having like a really nasty thought, intrusive thought. They like, "Oh, I'm having this thought. I'm having this thought." And then but if you get them to the point where they start to say like I'm having this thought. I'm noticing I'm having this thought. Or it's like this separation from it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That I feel like is necessary where it's not like just happening to you. It's like, oh, yeah, here it comes. I noticed this and I'm ready for it,
Another thing
which is
that's
nice.
really helpful around this time of the year, if you know that this you struggle, is finding things to like enjoy or get into before you really hit that bottom, so that
Mm.
you're already kind of like invested in something. Actually, I think Netflix is curing seasonal affect disorder with Stranger Things, honestly. How many people are excited about like a new season of Stranger Things hitting, and then they break it up and it's coming out in like these sections, so you people are like binging it, then they're looking forward to the next thing. That's helpful. Having things to look forward to, having things you enjoy. I know it sounds silly and I'm kind of making light of it, but it's like at the same time it's real too, because people are genuinely like happy about
Yeah,
this
you know what's funny,
thing.
Dave? You're bringing up a very interesting point, and it kind of is shining light on. It's shining a sad lamp on me right now and making me feel better because it's like why do you think what just passed Christmas, right? And
Right.
that was what was it Saturnalia, whatever. It
Yeah.
used to be, with pagans, it used to be these like weeks long or a
Oh,
week long like events where it's like, well, why would
yeah.
we schedule this beautiful feast of
Right.
fun and happiness in the darkest days of winter? Oh, because we know everyone's gonna be sad and pissed off, so let's give them something to look forward to. It was like
Exactly.
natural adaptation
Right.
to do that.
Yes.
That's like
Absolutely.
why.
I mean, our Christmas episode, we talked about that last year, right? Was that last year's Christmas episode or 2 years ago?
Probably 2 years
Christmas.
ago with the Saturnalia.
Yeah. So people should listen to that, because there was a lot, right, that you just talked about that we discussed back then. That's exactly right. You need things to look forward to, things that you can just set your mind on. And yes, part of this whole thing is loss of interest. I get it. Loss of
Uh,
interest in things you typically enjoy and hobbies and stuff like that. But still, if you intentionally put effort into these things, or if it's something that's just like you just enjoy so much, it's really impossible not to have some emotion about it. I think that's all super helpful. So, I just wanted to point that out. I do think that that's a really helpful thing, but also something you can plan ahead on. For me, I challenge myself in the winter, and Greg knows this about me, but past years, I make lists of my favorite Christmas horror films, and I make it a point and a goal to watch as many as possible around this time of the year, and so I can like refer them to friends and things like that. A bunch of people who don't want to know about them, I can
yeah,
tell
we're
them
all
about
very
them and stuff.
appreciative.
So, just getting into stuff that you normally wouldn't and trying to find some purpose during a tough time, that is helpful in this time of the year. Now, the thing I never really hear people talk about is spring and summer seasonal affect disorder, but it actually does kind of make sense to me, I guess. So seasonal affect disorder in the spring and summer might look like trouble sleeping, poor appetite, weight loss, agitation or anxiety, and increased irritability. Sounds like you're just getting all revved up because the hot weather's coming and you're not
It
happy
sucks
about it.
to be hot,
Yeah, it sucks to be
and it
hot.
sucks to be cold.
Yeah. We're just never happy. So I don't know, Greg. Did you ever hear people talk about that though?
No, I hadn't heard anything about that before this started, but I guess it does make sense because I think that sometimes being in a place where the humidity can get really high,
Yeah.
that'll bum you out.
Sure. I actually have this guy that I work with. He's 30. I've literally known him and worked with him since he was like 14 or 15. I've known him forever. Phil Laotian, really hard to understand, has and he talks really soft. It's just a cultural thing in his house. Everybody is very like quiet. But he said this one thing, and and he has developmental disorders. And I meant to say that earlier when I said the population I work with, and we are talking about the sad lamp, and I realized I didn't say that, assuming everyone would know. But so for this individual though, he said something, and I'm like, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, he was really onto something. He would always say, people get pissed off in the summer. I'm like, what? Because people get pissed off. I'm like, okay. And he would always say that around the time of the summer, people get pissed off. And I'm like, I had no idea where it was coming from. This guy knew all about spring and summer seasonal affect disorder because he's exactly right. People do get pissed off in the summer.
People do, and where he comes, the part of the world he comes from, it's very humid all the time. And
It's so
it's funny
such a weird
because,
thing.
dude, that summer in New York City, Summer of Sam,
Yeah.
the power went out, no air
Oh,
conditioning,
and you think about like how grueling hot, like whenever I hear stories of Summer of Sam, I just think of people sweating,
just
uh,
sweating.
wearing like those white tank tops. I won't say the term for those. Just like you just think of just like people without ACs, you're like they're walking down these giant systems down the road trying to put them into their
They're
apartment building.
glistening. There's a
Yeah.
scene in The Sopranos where Meadow and her boyfriend Finn are watching, movies, but their air conditioner went out, and they're like, let's just go to a movie theater so we can be in the air conditioner." And
Yeah.
they get in an argument. Why? Because they're hot.
They have seasonal affect disorder.
It sucks. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I never hear people talk about this. I don't know much about it. I guess it's a thing. I read about it. But I mean, also, yeah, when you're hot equals irritable. So, I mean, is it seasonal affect disorder because of the spring and summer, or is it just people being irritable because of the weather? I don't know.
All right. Now might be a little bit, well, is that a little bit concept creep? Because, I had someone mention to me recently that their favorite episode was concept creep, and I was like, really? But I don't know. Is sad in the summer?
Summertime
Is
sadness,
that?
Lana Del Rey.
Oh, okay. Well, you can be sad anytime. I guess that's okay, right?
Sure.
So you're not alone. Um, what do you think about this, Dave, and its connection? Everything connected to
I
bipolar
thought you were just
disorder
going to say
can
everything
be.
is connected, just in general. Everything is connected. True.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like, we when we talked about the postpartum thing, postpartum depression can turn into postpartum psychosis if you've previously been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So like, you know, addiction can be worse. And this too, right? This like increased sadness can um in
For
some
people with
cases with people with
bipolar,
bipolar disorder. Yeah,
yeah,
like, episodes of mania can be linked to this, which is and probably episodes of more increased depression just for obvious reasons,
I
right?
would
It puts you
imagine, and this is a total guess. I would imagine it's in the fall and summer. I mean, fall and winter probably increased depressive episodes,
yeah.
bipolar depressive episodes, and I would imagine in the summer and spring increased mania. Uh,
I think so.
I that's a guess. I don't think it takes a scientist to figure that one out, but I mean, who
No.
knows? Maybe. I mean, I would be really surprised to hear if someone told me they had manic episodes in the winter more so than the
You're like,
summer.
isn't it too cold for that? No, that's
Right.
terrible. But like it's no, you know what? I work at the hospital. It's not too cold. It happens. Um, don't worry. Fear not. Let me talk about some of these causes, though, Dave. And one specifically I've been dealing a lot with, and that's your biological clock. And I don't mean that in a pregnancy form. I mean like your circadian rhythms. So, we do a weird thing here in New England where, I don't know, do we do this everywhere where the daylight savings thing?
It's a farming thing, so it's wherever there's farms, right?
I don't think so. It is a farming thing, yes, but I don't think it's wherever there's farms.
Well, there's
I
farms
think that might
everywhere,
not be right.
so
But I think we're getting rid of it. I don't know because the farming, I
they've
don't know,
been
it's different
saying
now.
that forever, though.
I know. I know.
Literally forever, they've been
I
saying.
know. But even if you take away the farming thing and the daylight savings time, the decreased sunlight is gonna disrupt your body's internal clock, right? And it's gonna mess with your serotonin levels because that's connected to sunlight. It affects you. Obviously serotonin is a huge player in your mood and your sense of well-being. And if that reduced sunlight affects your serotonin in a negative way, then guess what? That could trigger some depression.
I think.
Also,
Do
Dave,
you
the
think they
one
should get
thing
rid of
that we're
it?
not talking about here, melatonin's a funny thing. Again, with my recent experience, I've had some experience with some of these things, and melatonin I've learned isn't something you pop in your mouth and you're like, "Oh, now I'm just going to go to sleep." This is more related to you know, the way your body reacts and its accuracy with your circadian rhythm and the amount of light you get into your eyes and at the right times. So it's like if you're using melatonin, you have to be making sure that you're practicing good sleep hygiene and not, shining a light in your eyes when you're wanting to go to sleep because your melatonin also is the thing that's going to help wake you up at the appropriate time, right?
Yeah.
So it's like melatonin's a funny thing. Um, so if you're using it properly, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I've had like, mixed results with
I
it.
think it
I don't know.
has
What is
a
your what,
my I have a I think it's a placebo effect for me. I take it and I'm like right away. It does, but it
so it
doesn't
works
like
for you.
yeah, no, it has in the past. I've taken it. I used to actually, I said I never really struggled with insomnia, but like clearly I had some sleeping issues
I know
because
you, yeah, no
I
kidding.
used to take it pretty frequently actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It worked, but like I said, I think it was more placebo because it's definitely for me mind over matter because it's usually anxiety based stuff. I
You
was
know
going to
what's
ask you,
funny though,
do you,
Dave?
oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. What were you
I
gonna
was going to ask you about the daylight savings. Do you think they should get rid of it or do you,
say? Yeah, I do.
there's no point to it.
Well, yeah, there's no point to it right now, but I think it staying the earliest it gets late, I mean dark being 5 o'clock versus 4 o'clock, it helps a little.
Yeah.
It's just that extra little bit of sunlight when you're not sleeping makes a difference, I think, for people.
You know
I
what's
I think so.
interesting? My cat sits at her bowl. So we got an automatic feeder and it goes off, but like she sits at her bowl now like an hour before feeding time. And I honestly think it's because she doesn't understand daylight saving.
Oh man,
I
is
wish
she
I
gonna
could
be an hour
explain it to
late
her.
once she gets used to it?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's I
it's
know.
taking a
It's one of those
long
things.
time. Yeah.
Dave, what about risk factors? Oh, and you know what's funny before we move on though, like about sleep, maybe that's tied to it in some way too, where, maybe in the summertime, because of the light, you're not sleeping enough, which is going to cause irritability. And,
Sure.
in the wintertime, you're sleeping too much, which is also can be a problem, or
That would
wanting
pro-
to sleep too much.
that would definitely explain why people get pissed off in the summer.
Yeah,
That would piss me
not
off.
enough sleep.
People are
And it's at
pissed
these
off.
peaks, right? So it's like you're if it's getting dark at 9 in June, you're not going to bed at 9.
No.
And if it's dark at 4:30 in, December, then by the time 9 o'clock hits, you feel like it's 2 in the morning.
Does your sleep times change? Like normally, do you go to bed earlier in the winter, later in the summer?
No, I think it's what was tough about my sleep issues was it was like I have pretty good about like just going to bed at a certain time, doing that kind of thing. So no, I mean I don't know. And let me ask you this: how many hours of sleep do you get a night?
7?
Yeah,
I
I'm definitely not 8. I'm like 6, 7. Ooh, as the kids are saying right now.
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah, I
cringe.
don't mean to do that. 6 or 7.
Let's
So risk factors, right? More often diagnosed in women than men. which is interesting. I can't even
Is
that
again
that
though,
just
is that
always
about reporting?
yeah, it just always go back to the reporting. Um, More frequently in younger adults than older adults, because I think that's explained away too. Because it's funny. When I came out of the Navy, I've talked about this before. I had some difficulty with like panic and like understand like maybe even PTSD, things like that. But I had a doctor who was a little bit older, and he was, I was talking to him about panic, and I was like maybe 24, 25 years old. And he's like, by the time you get to be my age, and he was probably like 50, he's like, you just won't care. He's like, I used to have that, but I don't
You
care.
stop caring.
So I panic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you know what's funny? I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah.
Like a little bit,
No,
right?
I mean, age for some, I'm not gonna say for everybody. I do think age, you do maybe grow out of certain things, or you just
Sure.
your outlook changes on certain things, so things don't impact you as much. The things that impacted me at 20 do not impact me as much at
Yeah.
my age, which
Not
doesn't
to say that
surprise.
you can't have depression and anxiety when you're at any age, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. But you just might not be about the same things,
exactly.
you
Like,
know?
you find other things to be
New
sad about.
things.
So here's some factors that may increase your risk of seasonal affective disorder. Family history, right? I mean, that goes to a couple things. That goes to the way that it's approached, that goes to the way that it's talked about, but it also goes to biology, I think.
Yeah.
Um, you know? So having major depression or bipolar obviously is gonna, exacerbate the symptoms of depression. That's not great. Living far from the equator. So if you can get yourself a little bit close to that equator, you can
Yeah,
find
but
yourself having a little bit of a better time,
the cost of
right?
living near the equator these days is crazy.
So if you're in what is it? Is it Nome, Alaska, where it's like 30 days of night? Um, I don't know if that's the right place, but there's a place in Alaska where it's like that. They're probably not doing so hot. But if you're in Rio, I don't know. Maybe you're less sad, but you got the other side of it, the sweaty sad. Anyways, the
You're
low
just
level of
super
vitamin
anxious
D.
about all your finances. So it's yeah, I don't know.
That's true too.
It would be
That's true too.
interesting to if they did, they if they did a study about that, like how much I'm sure they have, but just like the how people in Nome, Alaska or wherever, how they experience life or so I mean I'm assuming there's like there's stats about the significance of that far further away from the equator.
Yeah,
I'm
there
just
is.
curious, like what those numbers look like,
Oh,
how
you know what? I had the
drastic of a
numbers, but
difference it is.
I
I
had
don't know
those
why that
numbers.
was so hard for me to get out. I really had a hard
They
time
didn't. No, they didn't have
articulating that.
actual percentages. The only
Yeah,
percentages that they have were like 40% of adults, like in America. But it was tough to find anything on like. But they did mention that places like New England, for example, and Alaska specifically mentioned that those places have higher rates of seasonal affective disorder.
yeah. I would just love to know
Barrow,
like
Nome,
the
Alaska, wherever it is, but
how
like,
much it varies, from
mm,
like that to somewhere really close. Like what is it a really significant like increase further away? I just would love to know those numbers. I could look
yeah, I
those
would
up.
kind of
I
like,
will
I'd be interested
probably
in that too.
I will do
So
that.
put it in the chat if you can. Um, Reach out to us and let us know if you know anything about
Researchers,
this.
give us those
Dave,
numbers, please.
give us those numbers. And Dave, like you mentioned before, with your intuition being true about the vitamin D, um, yeah, vitamin D, it helps. Vitamin D's, we found out during COVID too, is like actually super important.
Yeah.
It's like a protective factor. It definitely helps boost your serotonin activity, which is good, right? So you're using a lot more serotonin. Um, I mean, what else? Like social withdrawal, that's not going to help. School, work problem, any kind of substance use is always going to exacerbate symptoms of these things. And if you have any kind of pre-existing mental illness, then, you're a little bit more at risk. But all in all, this thing affects us all, I think,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
some varying degree.
It does
Until
help
we,
if people can find things also in the winter that they
yeah,
enjoy doing, that can be something helpful as well. I mean, this is all like obviously that's not earth-shattering suggestion there, but honestly, if you have something that you enjoy doing during that period of time that there's less to do, it can be something helpful. I don't know, whatever that thing is for you.
No, I totally agree. Like I even like wrote down in my notes, like it's smart to give yourself a reason to embrace the evolutionary impulse. So yes, I have stuff to do, but I also really want to relax. And relaxing a little bit more in the winter is okay. And
Yeah.
maybe like what you're saying is like just don't fight it as much. Like
Yeah.
find things that are
Right.
cool about having to be sort of like having to behave differently because you do. You can't go outside as much. It's dark earlier, but maybe there's some cool things about that. And like,
Yeah.
what are those things?
It's funny
You
because
know?
in New England, obviously, we have people here who like winter activities like
Mm.
skiing or snowboarding or whatever. Those aren't my things. So I never really had things that I looked forward to doing
Mm.
in the winter. Actually, all it would remind me of is the lack of things to do, or, there's going to be times where maybe you can't drive places as well because of the weather or it's icy. I would always think about the negative aspects of it. But, you know, when you kind of reframe that and you find those things, it can be helpful because it just gives you something to look forward to, whether it's
Yeah.
decorating for Christmas or the holidays or uh, just planning gatherings with friends to make sure you stay in touch with them, or even just go for a walk in the snow is pretty beautiful.
Do- I, I was gonna say the snow. Yeah. I mean, if you can get some, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dave, I think that's it for sad. I mean, I think we did a pretty comprehensive job on sad, to be
It,
honest.
it's yeah, considering it's, I mean, so obviously similar to talking about depression in general. I mean, the main things that we're saying are give yourself things to look forward to, understand yourself better, don't deny what's going on for you. That's never going to be helpful. And also maybe a little bit of like do the opposite of what your body wants to do if that's not helpful to you. You know what I mean? If like your
Yeah, yeah,
body's
yeah.
telling you to isolate and stay away from people, you really got to like do opposite action and
Because you, but yeah,
make
you
an
do have to,
effort.
I'm sorry, because you have to think of why your body is telling you to do that. It's not telling you to do that because it hates you. It's
Yeah.
telling you to do that because it loves you,
Right.
and it wants to keep you safe. But sometimes your brain, it's not meant to make you feel happy. Our brains aren't designed to make us happy.
Yes.
Period.
And in general, like you mentioned PTSD. I mean, that's a great way to reference it too, because with PTSD, you're constantly your brain's constantly looking for danger, and
Yeah.
sometimes it assumes danger is happening in places that it's not, right? But it's just because it's like looking for it because of an experience you previously had. So with this, your brain is kind of trying to protect you or help you in a situation where it maybe doesn't really need to, and you need to fight that urge or just understand that that's what's happening, and now I got a plan to do something a
I
little
I
differently
love
here.
like the idea of fighting the urge and also relinquishing control of the urge at the
Yeah.
same time.
Right.
Both are very adaptive. So at times I gotta go to work, but I feel like this. Well, I gotta fight the urge because this is an impulse that was useful to human beings a millennia ago, but maybe not now, and I
Not
gotta
now.
work. And
Exactly.
but also it may be true that I do need more rest in the wintertime because it is cold and flu season.
Sure. 100%.
Well, I mean, like honestly, like I'm kidding, but at the same time, it's true. Like there's use in both those things. So it's like just kind of like be a little bit more fluid with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That is our episode on seasonal affect. Greg, thank you for your research. This, I feel, was a decent amount of information for us to provide everyone. If anybody has any feedback or thoughts that they'd like to share or criticisms or whatever, feel
Sure, we'll take
free
that too.
to message us on social media or on the Patreon, which you should all have joined by now. We have different levels. There's paid, there's free membership, all that good stuff. Just join. You get the full video of the episodes, all that good stuff. And also, we always love when people review our episodes. And that's, awesome for us, gets the motivation going, but also helps us reach other, people because it will push us along. Greg, do you have your phone on you?
Say that again, Dave.
Do you have your phone on you?
I have it. Yeah.
Could you read our last review that we just got, I think yesterday or the day before? Because we always like to read them and give the
And
person
was
a
that
shout out.
on Apple or
It's on
what?
Apple. Yep.
Okay, I can do that. Just if you give me a second here. Let's see.
So for the most
Okay,
part,
my
Apple
new
and
favorite
Spotify. Oh, go
podcast.
ahead. Yeah, there you go.
So just the type of and this is from Giselle. Thank you, Giselle. Just the type of content I love and delivered in such a fun and engaging manner. I listen to plenty of psychology podcasts, and none have hooked me the way these two have. I find myself literally laughing out loud and learning from each episode. The banter between these two feels so genuine, and it is genuine, by the way. Not only has this been a show I tune in to learn something, but it's also become a comfort listen. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. You rock. And Giselle, we are back, and we are going to keep doing what we do. And thank you for that, because these are the kinds of things that literally help us keep doing what we do, because that means the world.
Absolutely. So, Giselle, that was an amazing review. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to give a shout out to um, Kellen, who has followed us for a while, but just recently joined the Patreon. We had Giselle just joined the Patreon. Actually, I just looked. She just recently did. Jessica Dawson. Let's see, Kylie A. Mike Jordan. Phoebe,
Phoebe, yep, she reaches out. She's
KM,
great.
Daniela,
Yep.
Juarez, Haley Graham. I mean, there's been so many. Annie Cassidy, Josh. Oh boy, I'm gonna butcher that. So Josh C, um,
Josh C.
Zach.
Josh Constantino.
Okay, Jacqueline Houston. Thank you all so much for joining the Patreon. We appreciate you being patient with us and waiting for this episode to come out. And now that we're back, you're going to get sick of us and probably fall behind at some point and have to play catch up. So get ready for that, but don't say we didn't warn you. Thank you, everybody, and have yourself a great day. We'll see you later.
See you later.